Good evening. Don Palayo checking in here with you guys this evening. It's Sunday, May 18th, 2025. Had a pretty good weekend. Been pretty busy. Yesterday I was focused kind of on my goals. I got my house cleaned up. I did a lot of work around the home. By the way, this is a new setting for me. Usually I'm in my upstairs room, but now I'm here on my main floor. This is my living room. I have this sword in the background. As many of you know, I spent a couple of years in Spain. I've traveled back a few times since then. One of my last trips, I think that was in when was that? 2021. I purchased this sword. It is a replica of the swords used by the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, many of them guarded the path of the pilgrims that were traveling the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain. They would protect the pilgrims because back in those days there were what they called highwaymen that would accost the pilgrims and rob them. And so the Knights Templar were protecting the pilgrims back in those days, and that's one of the replicas of those swords. Their swords, by the way, were pretty heavy. I'm surprised. I don't know how they fought with those things, but it's heavier than you might think. Um, anyway, it's an exact replica of the swords that the Knights Templar used back in the I guess that would have been probably around the 1200s, that period, back in the day. Um, anyway. I went and saw my parents this morning and spent a few hours with them. My dad just had his 74th birthday yesterday. I still sounds weird for me to say that. I think my parents will forever be like in their 40s in my mind, although I'm 48. I don't know. It's just weird to think about my parents being that age, but happens to all of us, right? Um, I've kind of decided, I've been really looking at my finances this weekend because, like most of us, we're all trying to set financial goals, trying to build a little bit, trying to stay afloat in this kind of crazy economy that we're in. As many of you also know, I DoorDash in the evenings. I'm mainly doing that to pay down, first of all, primarily pay down debt. It helps. I mean, I'm really making progress on paying things off, and then also building assets. I don't, once I'm on my last credit card payment, my last credit card to pay off. And once I have that off of me, I don't necessarily need to DoorDash, but I'm probably going to continue doing it just to build assets. I've kind of I've gone back and, I have a degree in finance and I focused on investments coming along when I went to school. When I was studying and going through most of my financial planning training, diversification is an important thing. And most people have heard of diversification when it's related to investments. When you're talking about investments, historically speaking, that has primarily been what people mean when they say, are you diversified? They're probably really mostly talking about your percentage of your portfolio that's in stocks and a percentage of your portfolio that's in bonds. People talk about a 60-40 allocation, which is a balanced portfolio, what has historically been known as a balanced portfolio. These days, I'm going to be honest with you guys, my portfolio is way more diversified than stocks and bonds. I do have some investments. It's like I'm 48. You would hope I would have some investments, right? I don't use bonds hardly at all in my portfolio. In fact, I don't think I have any bonds in my portfolio. So I have no bonds, zero. Because I have more than a 15-year, I've probably got about 15 years roughly left to work, maybe a little bit more. And so I probably won't move to bonds until I'm maybe 5 years out. So we'll see. But right now, I've been tweaking my portfolio a little bit. I have IRAs. I have three different IRA accounts, believe it or not. I have a traditional IRA, um, and that's the biggest piece of my traditional investments. That has primarily value stocks. I do have a growth fund in there as well. They're mostly index funds. I also have about 20% of my paper assets. Talking about funds and stocks and bonds. I don't have any bonds, so mainly I'm invested in funds right now. But I have about 20% in gold and silver ETFs. Gold and silver have slipped back here a little bit, but I just, the way things are going, Moody's just downgraded the U.S. credit rating. I imagine there's going to probably be more money printing on the way in the near future. That being the case, gold and silver is a good idea. Of course, I can't give financial advice to anybody, but I'm telling you what I'm doing. So I have about 20% of my portfolio in gold and silver right now. I do have silver as well, the bullion form that I have stashed away. Not as much, but I do have some. I have decided that my goal for door dashing, I try to make $500 a week door dashing. And I do that by working 3 or 4 hours in the evening. And then Friday night, I stay out a little later because it's usually a little busier and the people are paying a little bit more. And then I'll do a little bit on Saturday night as well. And my target is $500 a week. When I break that down, the first $50, so 10% of my weekly amount, I put as a payment on my car. It's like an extra payment on my car. It's up and above my normal car payment. Because I'm door dashing, I'm putting more miles on my car. So that comes out to about an extra $200 a month on my car payment that I'm putting on the car to help, get it paid down a little faster. After that, I'm putting $75 a week into for my kids. I have 2 daughters, and right now I'm focused on my older daughter because I'm giving her a stash of money at her 21st birthday. I've actually already given her half of it, but I had promised her that I was going to be giving her a sizable chunk of money this year for her 21st birthday. I've already given her half of it. I'm giving her the other half at her birthday in September. And so right now I'm solely putting that money aside for her. And then once I've gotten her money, I'll be doing that for my daughter and putting that into my youngest daughter's accounts. She won't get her money for another at least about 5 years. So I have time to build a nice chunk for her. And then, so that's another 75. So that's 125 of my 50 goes to my car and to my kids. The next 140, I came up with that number because I decided I wanted to put $20 a day into my savings account. That's an easy goal. That's an easy target. That's $600 a month going into savings. And I can do that. So that, per year, that's $7,200 going into my savings account per year. It's a good number. I feel comfortable with that. And then I have decided recently, today, that every week I'm going to start buying 1 ounce of silver every week, bullion. I have a local coin shop nearby, and they sell silver bullion there. I will be going there every Saturday morning and buying 1 ounce of silver. And I'll be doing that for the foreseeable future, and I'll be stashing that aside. Then the rest of the 500 goes into my normal cash flow. It goes to pay for the gas for door dashing, my regular spending. So anyway, that's how I'm breaking it down. I am really trying to put myself in a better position because I've realized that I'm a homeowner, and right now, if something went wrong with my house, if I had to replace the air conditioning system or I had to replace a roof or anything like that, it would be difficult right now. It'd be very difficult for me to do that. I probably do have a couple ways of doing that, but I've thought about setting up a HELOC because I do have a good bit of equity in this house. I could do that and use that for that. I could, but I would really like to just have the savings set aside, and I should have a larger emergency fund. Honestly, it's probably funny to some of you that I work in finance and that I've, work in wealth management, and I don't have my emergency fund like I should. That's called the miracle, the benefits of divorce, right? The marriage and divorce. I've been married twice, divorced twice, and it definitely puts a pinch on you financially. But truthfully, between you and me, I think back to when I was married, and my first marriage almost feels like it was a different lifetime ago. It doesn't even feel like I'm not even the same person I was then. When I was married in my first marriage, I was so young. I was 22 years old when I got married the first time. And I had all these, I was very naive, extremely naive back then. And I tried so hard. I was putting so much effort in. I planned a bunch of trips for me and my wife, trying to kind of build a bond between us, because some of you already know this. I grew up Mormon, and in the Mormon, there's a lot of things I like about the Mormon faith, the Mormon religion, the way of life, the morals and ethics of the Mormons. There are a few things about being Mormon that I kind of disagree with. There's a lot of pressure on people to get married like as early as possible. It's like there's this pressure to just get it married. Who cares if you can afford a family or not? That's just like they just gloss over that. I got married when I was 22. I was still in college. I was in college, just like in my second year of. Was I in my second year of college? I think I was in my second year of college. So I was a sophomore in college. I got married. I had no money. My parents helped me buy the ring. It was stupid. It was stupid. I hate saying that, but it was stupid. The only good thing was I did get a daughter out of that relationship. When my first wife and I got married, we barely even knew each other, really. I didn't know her very well. I knew a little bit, because we did date. We dated for about 6 months before we got married. But there's just this push to get married. It's like the goal in the Mormon church is to get married, and it's just. Please take your time. If you're going to get married, take your time. Really get to know the person. You need to know these people very, very well before you make such a life-changing decision. I didn't know her nearly well enough. My first wife's not a bad person. She's not a bad person. We were just very different people. Wanted very different things out of life. There were some issues that we combated. Every couple has their issues, but we had some different sort of issues that we were dealing with in my first marriage. But when I look back on it, I tried really hard the first 2 or 3 years of that marriage, and it wore me down because I never really felt like, and I think this has been my problem with relationships the whole time, is I've just never felt like any of these people really cared about me that much. And I'm not talking about just my first wife. I'm talking about the whole experience. I'm 49 years old. I don't think I've ever had a woman that was genuinely in love with me. I had women that would marry me because they wanted to be married. They wanted to get married. It wasn't about me. It was about what they wanted and getting married. Um, I was just kind of an afterthought. I was just helping them get what they wanted. You know, anyway, I realized somewhere along the line that none of these people really care that much. And I think I became pretty depressed, to be honest. Probably about 5 years into our marriage, I really started dealing with some pretty significant depression. I felt like I had tried so hard to build a bond, to try to build closeness with someone that didn't really want that, And I still remember this one time. This was early in our marriage. I think this was maybe a year and a half after we got married. That I was working at Bank of America at the time, and I took off early that day, intentionally. And I went to the grocery store. I bought a bunch of stuff for a nice dinner. Came home, made this really nice dinner. I think it was like chicken parmesan with pasta and all the whole thing, salad, garlic bread, the whole thing. I got all dressed up, shirt, tie, jacket, the whole deal. I had candles on the table, the whole thing. My wife comes home from work. She walks in and sees what I've got. I'm dressed up, and she's like, "What's going on?" And just that evening was so weird. It was like she looked at me like I had lost my mind. She looked at me like I had lost my mind. And it was like I was just trying to do something nice. I was trying to, I don't know. I think women a lot of times, they think that we do these things just trying to get sex out of them or something. And it's like, for years, I spent years trying to build some bond between us, early in our marriage. We did all these trips. I took her, we went to New York, took her to Broadway. We went to a couple Broadway shows in New York. We did that for our first anniversary. Our second anniversary, we went back to where we got married originally. And, then we took trips to the Bahamas. We took a trip to Spain. I took her over to Spain for about 10 days. We were over there for about 10 days, I guess. Did all these things, trying so hard to try to build some closeness with each other, and it just never happened. I just never felt like this person, was really. She liked being, I think she liked being married. I think she liked having a husband, a guy there to help provide and bring money in. But she wasn't in love with me. To this day, I hate saying that, but I just believe it. It was pretty obvious, pretty apparent. And, when I first got married, my self-esteem was not the greatest to begin with. I had struggled with dating, and it was always something very difficult for me. I was always kind of shy and didn't really know, I didn't grow up around girls very much. I didn't spend a lot of time around girls when I was growing up, and the whole thing was kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It's a little, you feel a little awkward when you first start dating and stuff. And I don't know, so I had never really had much success with girls to begin with. And then it's like I get married and my own wife doesn't want to have anything to do with me, really. And it's like, so of course I'd be depressed, right? I mean, it's like, it was just so frustrating to me. We eventually got divorced. It was so hard because, we had a young daughter. My daughter was 2 years old when we got divorced. I hated that. I really hated it, but I felt like I had no choice. I really felt like I had no choice. There were other things going on too, and it's complicated. But I've tried to be the best dad I could be. I spent a lot of time with my older daughter after me and my first wife broke up. Um, some of those memories with my older daughter are the best memories of my life. I remember I would take her over to our local. We have a little science museum for kids here in my hometown, and I would take her over there almost every weekend. We had a membership. I got a membership over there so that we could go, and they had a planetarium, and they'd have star shows, and we would go. They had animals and different kinds of animals and stuff, and she loved it, and she learned a lot. She knew all her planets before she went to kindergarten, I think. But and she loved seeing all the animals, and I miss that. To be honest, I do miss those days a lot right now. I was single for 5 years after her mom and I divorced. Um, after we split up, I felt very bitter and angry. I was bitter and angry for a few years. Did a lot of things I shouldn't have done. I started dating and I just didn't feel like it mattered. I felt like I'd always done everything I was supposed to do, and everything turned out destroyed anyway. And so what does it matter? And I did feel that way. I shouldn't have felt that way, but I did feel that way. I felt like, what does it matter? What does it matter? If I'm following all the rules or not, because nothing's working anyway. So I just started doing whatever I wanted to do, and I did that for about 5 years, and that was not good either. I've made a fair number of mistakes there, but anyway, I wish I had been paying more attention, just improving my own life during that time instead of worrying about women. I should not have been worried about women at all. I should have been completely focusing on getting more educated, because I went back to school during that time. I went back to college and got another degree. I shouldn't have done that either. I probably should have just gone after certifications and things. Maybe eventually gotten a master's degree. I don't know. But I got remarried roughly about 5 years after we broke up, 4.5 maybe. And my second wife, she seemed nice enough but again, it was a situation where I didn't know her well enough. I didn't know her very well. We had been talking for about 6 months online, and we met in March of 2011. We got married in July. Within a few months of us getting married, almost every day it was miserable. She just, for almost 3 years, she just acted like she hated my guts. A lot of the time. A lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time. Things didn't go very well in that marriage either. It was very, very difficult being in a relationship with someone that doesn't just not love you, but at times acts like she just absolutely can't stand you. And that was a lot of my marriage with her. So that marriage ended in 2014, a little over 3 years after we got married. And I'm never going back down that road again. I just can't, for a number of reasons. If I was going to get married again, more than likely the person that I would marry would already have kids, which means I would be responsible. I would have to think about saving for them. And it's like, I've got 2 daughters to take care of. I'm not bringing more kids into my life. I've got enough to deal with. I've got enough to handle already. I just have no interest in getting remarried again. So I'm done with that. I am building my life, I'm going to try to build as much wealth as I possibly can, which in this day and time, it's getting harder and harder to do that. Um, I do worry about that a little bit, the world that we're leaving our children, and, I don't know what it's going to look like for them, but I'm going to do the best I can to help them as much as I can. And I am thinking about, retirement too. It's like I'm hoping, my concept of retirement has changed with time. There was a point where I was like, I'm retiring at 58 and I'm going to go live in Spain and I'm going to have a house over there. I'm not thinking that way anymore. I have a couple of trips that I want to do, but that's mainly it. I want to hike a few of the Camino trails, the Camino de Santiago trails. I want to do the Camino Frances. I want to do the Camino del Norte, and I want to do the Camino, oh shoot, what's the other one that I want to do? The, oh man, I can't remember it right now. Via de la Plata, the Via de la Plata, that's it. That one goes from Seville up to Santiago de Compostela. That's probably the longest of the three. The Camino Frances is about 500 miles. The Camino del Norte, I think, is pretty similar to that, right around 500 miles. And I think the Via de la Plata is about 800 miles, I think. So hopefully I can do this. I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little concerned about it because I have not had the best luck with my ankles anyway, just normally. I've had ankle problems most of my life. I was diagnosed with gout this past fall. I'm taking medication for that, which has really helped. But the structure of my ankles, I have flat feet, number one. Number two, my ankles kind of turn in a little bit, probably as a result of my flat feet. So I don't know. I don't know how it will go when I go and try to do the Camino de Santiago. One of the benefits of flat feet is that the pressure you hit, your foot hits flat. And so the pressure gets evenly distributed over the surface of your foot instead of being just on the balls of your feet, your heel and the ball of your foot. So it kind of gets evenly distributed. So that kind of reduces the chances for blisters. But I'm just worried about my ankles primarily. But we'll see how it goes. The good news is I've gotten some weight off. I'm hoping to lose another 30 pounds before I tackle those hikes, but we'll see where we get. Anyway, I don't know why I got to talking about relationships. That was not really part of my deal today, but I think about it too much. As much as I would like to say that it doesn't bother me, it does. And there's various things that bother me about it all. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is I've realized that I'm going to be 49 years old this year, and I've genuinely never had a woman that was in love with me. I've never experienced that before. I've just never had that. I've never had that happen. I've never had a woman really feel interested in me ever. I've never experienced that. I'm kind of wondering if that's ever going to happen. Well, not anymore. I used to think about it. I kind of had longed for that. I wanted to find someone that really genuinely loved me and really wanted to be with me. It was really excited about being with me, and it's like all the women I've met, it's been like, well, he seems to be a nice guy. I guess and he's asked me, so I guess I'll marry him. That's what it's felt like. That's, I hate saying that, but that's kind of the way it's felt. The whole experience with relationships has felt that way. Anyway, I am going to get prepared for my week this week. I've got some goals to hit this week. Trying to get prepared. I swear, everybody keeps coming after me for money, keeps asking me for money here lately, and it's starting to get. I'm kind of a softie a lot of times. Unfortunately, I wish I need to be a little bit more of a. I need to push, and sometimes I do. I have, but it's just especially with my daughter, especially my youngest daughter too. Um, I live 500 miles from my youngest daughter, and I hate that. It's like, but we FaceTime a lot, and talk a lot. But whenever she asks me for something, it's like I feel guilty not doing it because it's like I already don't get to spend a lot of time with her, and it's like I feel like I should, when she asks for something, she doesn't ask that much. And usually when she does ask for something, it's usually pretty inexpensive. Today it was about $60, which was a little bit more than usual. Usually she's asking me for something, it might be 10, $15. Today it was $60, but she was so excited about it. And she was afraid it was going to get out of stock. And it was like something somebody she's watching has a podcast. One of her female podcast person was either selling or something. I don't know exactly what it was. Some kind of little stuffed animal or something that she was just had to have. So I got it for her. I don't know. I just felt like I feel kind of bad if I don't do those things for her. I'm looking forward to seeing her in a couple weeks. I'm going to be going to Florida the second week of June, so I'll be going down there. I think my oldest daughter's going with me. She just started a new job not too long ago, and so I'm a little bit concerned she may not be able to get the time off because I'm going down for almost a full week. We'll see. Anyway. Everybody have a good evening and a good start to your work week tomorrow. Keep grinding. I know it's hard out here. Do whatever you can to try to stash some money away. Try to put at least something every week into a savings account. I know it's hard right now. If you can't put more money into savings, buy a little extra food. Stack a little extra food in your pantry. Get a little extra food on the stored away, because I think we're getting. I'm trying to be optimistic about the economy, but I'm really worried about the debt that our country's running up. I've been worried about it since before Moody's downgraded us. I've been talking about it for a few years. I think a lot of us have known about it for a few years, and it's like none of these politicians can seem to be able to change it, be able to make progress with it. It's like they just keep wanting to spend, and it's like they're just not really that concerned about it. That's going to come back and bite us in the butt one of these days, I'm afraid. And anyway, we'll see how it turns out. You guys have a great evening and a good Monday, good start to your week. Have a good evening.